everyone, and welcome to Kandy's Quarantine Conversations with me, Kandy Delore. Joining me today is my special guest, radio presenter and author of the book Self-Discipline, How to Stop Procrastinating, Gemma Ray.
Hello!
Hi!
I'm not used to people saying my middle name.
Oh, I love your name, Gemma Ray.
Well, Gemma D used to be my radio name before I got married.
Okay.
Because my maiden name was Hodkinson and D is my legitimate middle name. So they were like, Gemma Hodkinson, oh, sounds like a geography teacher. Gemma D, that sounds like a radio presenter name. So I was Gemma D on the radio for years, and then I got married and dropped the middle name.
Oh, lovely. What radio station are you currently on at the moment?
So I present a weekly show on BBC Radio Lancashire.
Oh, brilliant. Is that new?
August last year I started that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, what have you been up to during quarantine?
Trying and failing to homeschool my son. We did amazing. The first 2 weeks were brilliant. We had timetables, we had a school name, we had post-it notes everywhere and a school motto. And then by week 2, I was like, no, this is just not happening at all. Trying to work from home at the same time as homeschooling a 9-year-old. No. Yeah. So we've just tried to keep our spirits up, have fun, lots of being silly, lots of walks in nature, which I think has kept our sanity going. And yeah, failing at homeschooling, that's pretty much been quarantine.
Well, I can't see you failing at anything. You are so motivational when it comes to being self-disciplined about getting things done. So could you tell us a bit about your book, Self-Discipline, How to Stop Procrastinating, please?
Yes. So the irony is, you say I'm disciplined and motivated. I'm not. I have to force it. And the irony of writing my first book about self-discipline was that I had no self-discipline to write it. It stayed as an idea in my head for many months until my accountability buddy, Ben, basically one day bullied me into starting it. And he said, look, just let's have a Zoom call. Let's in an hour see if you can just outline some chapter ideas. I'd not only outlined the chapters, I'd actually written the first chapter in that Zoom call. And it made me realize that taking action and it not being perfect was going to be the first step. And then I went on to write the book in a couple of days. Wow. Which was, pulled a couple of all-nighters and just got it written and got it done. But it took me a long time to launch it. It took me a long time to be brave enough to launch it, because there's something very exposing about writing a book, because you're worried about people's judgments. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it actually, the title and the theme of the book came from my accountability buddy, Ben. So he wanted to start writing for self-publishing on Amazon. And there's a couple of ways that you can choose to self-publish, and one of the ways is to look for topics that people are searching for books in that particular niche, but there's not a lot of competition. Yeah. And at the time, self-discipline was one of those topics. Mm-hmm. And we had a list of all sorts. One of them, which he said, how do you fancy writing about this, was vegan keto. And at the time, 4 years ago, we both went as if that'll never catch on. If we'd have gone with that, I probably would be very rich by now. It did catch on. But instead, the topic of self-discipline came up on this spreadsheet, and I was like, yeah, do you know what? I can write about that. I'd read, have you read a book called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod?
I haven't, unfortunately.
Very, very, very good. But that book changed my life, because up until that point, I'd always said that I couldn't get up in the morning. I was one of these people, I just can't get up in the morning. I've done breakfast radio for such a long time, driving to work in my pajamas most days. I had a change of clothes at the radio station. I was that bad for getting up. So I told myself for years, I can't get up in the morning. And then all of a sudden I read this book that basically told me that I was making that happen. I was making that true. That limiting belief was stopping me from getting up in the morning. So I read the book the next day, set my alarm, and I was up. And I couldn't believe it. It was like a miracle, aka the miracle morning. I was like, he is right. So I'd been getting up really, really early by the time I wrote Self-Discipline for about a year. And I realized that I had a little bit more time because I'd carved that time out in the morning. Yeah. And so, but as I said, I I say I carved out the time. I sat and thought about it a lot in my miracle mornings until I actually pulled my finger out and worked really hard to write it over the course of a few days. And I'm glad I did.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, you wrote your first chapter over Zoom. That's brilliant.
I did write my first chapter over Zoom. Yes, I did.
You've definitely got a great accountability buddy there.
So Ben, my accountability buddy, became my accountability buddy from reading The Miracle Morning. Okay. Because in it talks about having an accountability buddy. There's a group on Facebook where you're encouraged to get an accountability buddy, and I sent it to Ben, who's a friend of mine, and said, do you fancy reading this book? So he did, and he came back and said, we need to buddy up. Yep, cool, no problem. So we've done that now for the last, is it 4 years or is it 5 years? 4.5 years we've done that for. Yeah. And been in contact daily. But now we use Asana. Have you come across Asana before?
No, I haven't.
So Asana is like a project management. Somebody called it the Pornhub of productivity, because it is. If you want to be productive, Asana is amazing. It's like to-do lists on steroids, and it's a way to be accountable. So we actually now manage the book projects via Asana, but we keep in touch and keep each other accountable every day. Ben lives in Thailand. I live in Liverpool. So when I get up in the morning, there's like 25 notifications of things I've got to do that he's left me. And then the same for him. By the time he goes to bed, it's my working time. So when he gets up in the morning, there's loads of stuff that I've left him to do. But it's been one of the best, productive, amazing professional relationships ever. And without him, I wouldn't have done any of this at all. He's my... So we have a 50-50 split on everything, because it's only fair, because without him, I wouldn't have done it. Yeah. I did the easy part. Writing the book was the easy bit. Learning how to format it for Amazon and Amazon adverts and creating covers, that's the hard bit. And that's the bit that he's taken on board and self-taught. And it's worked wonders. It's done really well.
Wow, he sounds amazing. Shout out to Ben.
Honestly, Ben is awesome. He's like my brother from another mother. He's amazing. He really is. Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. My next question is that there are a lot of people who are really bored during quarantine, and even though they have things that they can, stay active during, like cleaning out their cupboards or organizing shelves and stuff like that, they just lack the motivation. So how can they become more self-disciplined to get these things done?
I've found a couple of things. Number one, and it's a bit unusual, is actively practice forgiveness of yourself for whatever's happened. And there are studies, actually, there was a big study into these group of students who'd procrastinated on their first midterm exam. And in the run up to their second exam, they were asked to actively practice forgiveness for procrastinating on the first. And consequently, they did better on the second exam. It's that old wiping the slate clean. And I think I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and somebody said something quite funny. I feel like I'm going to come out of this lockdown and feel like I've wasted it, which amused me. There was so much I could have done and I didn't. And it is an unusual time. There's no right or wrong way to feel. But number one, practice forgiveness. I mean, we don't know how long we've got left in lockdown, but you can still, I think, feel like you've done something. Yeah. And so number one would be practicing forgiveness, drawing a line, wiping the slate clean. What's been and gone doesn't matter. The second thing is, you might feel like you've not done much, but actually have a think back at all you have achieved over the last 10 weeks or whatever it is. Yeah. I call this a to-do list instead of a to-do list. So it's a retrospective list of writing down all the things you have actually done and achieved. Yeah. And ta-da, look at what I've done. So I've kept my kid alive. We've ate okay. The dogs are all right and I've had lots of exercise. Launched my second book, writing. But it might be, you might have cleared out your knicker drawer. You might have created a load of bags of stuff to take to the tip once they're finally open. And all of that stuff is equally and really important. You might have prioritized connecting with friends over chats or video calls. That's still equally as important and an achievement. And let's not forget as well, a lot of people in this lockdown are still working and working harder. Mm-hmm. So might not necessarily have the mental capacity to train for a marathon, write a book, Marie Kondo their whole house.
That is true.
Bake banana bread every day.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's different. It's absolutely different for everybody. But yes, practice forgiveness, number 1. Write a to-do list, number 2. And number 3, for the rest of lockdown, if you are feeling like you want to be a little bit more productive, make yourself accountable. I've started doing something where I share my non-negotiables every day of things that I want to do and want to achieve. And I put it on Instagram stories of the things that I'm going to do. And all throughout the day, it's in my mind. I've said I'm going to do an outdoor walk today. And instead of sitting on my arse eating kettle chips and thinking, oh, I can't be bothered, I'll do it tomorrow, I do get the dogs and I do head out because it's on my list.
Yeah.
And I've made it public and I want to achieve it. That's been really powerful. So even just like 3 things you want to do every day.
Yeah.
And it might doesn't have to be sporting or to do with food, or it can be like, I'm going to watch an episode of my favorite program. I'm going to sit down and read for an hour. And one of mine yesterday was, I'm going to have snuggles with my husband and my son. We're going to cuddle up in bed and have snuggles, because that's as important as the things we think we should be doing.
You are right. You are definitely right. And, you know, your to-do list sounds amazing. That's such a good thing to call it, because the results at the end, it's like, ta-da, I've done it, you know, and you feel great about yourself. So, yes, that's something I might have to try, a to-do list when it comes to working out.
Well, yeah, you know, like I've only started, I'll be honest, I only started properly working out last week. I actually got injured 2 days before lockdown started. I was delivering leaflets. I've set up a community kitchen, a volunteer group in my village. So we were delivering leaflets. I was at the last house, fell backwards, twisted my ankle. I've got bursitis in my left knee, and I've done something to my cartilage in my wrist.
Oh, no.
So I had all these, like, I was really motivated. I'd bought weights and a TRX system, and I was gonna be doing my home workouts, and I was like, yes, lockdown is gonna be my transformation. I'm gonna lose 3 stone in lockdown, you know. And then it didn't happen because I got injured. So
no, I'm sorry to hear that. But, you know, you've been so busy, you're doing so much, so maybe that was a sign to just take it easy now.
I think it was the universe going, right, missus, put a pause on life for a little bit. And so last week I felt well enough to be able to put my body weight on my wrist, so I started working out again. And using that to-do list process, even writing, while I might not have worked out for 8 weeks of quarantine, my to-do list would say that I let my body rest. I let my wrist heal.
Yes.
And so it's reframing all of those things that can make us feel a bit guilty, or there's a lot of shame in procrastination. We have a lot of this self-shame that we put on ourselves, and trying to actively get rid of that is really important. Hence why to-do list, forgiveness, definite steps you can take. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've noticed that you have made some major changes surrounding your health and your lifestyle in the past 6 months, and you look amazing and you are so outgoing. Currently, so many people are just eating junk food and they're not exercising because they feel really lazy. So how can people bring self-discipline into, you know, doing unhealthy things such as eating the wrong foods and just sitting there and binge watching Netflix and stuff like that, which turn into such unhealthy habits?
I think, again, you said a really good word there, eating the wrong food. And I think sometimes we have this notion that foods are good or bad. In my day-to-day work, I write for fitness professionals, nutritionists, personal trainers, and one of the nutrition traps that people fall into is they label foods as good or bad. They think they should be clean eating. What does that even mean? Do you know? So there is this psychology of when you restrict certain foods too much, you just end up craving them even more.
Yeah.
You imagine when we were teenagers and our parents told us we couldn't do something. What did we do? We rebelled and we did it anyway.
Yeah.
We don't lose that, you know. And so when we tell ourselves, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, we just want it even more.
Yes.
But the simplest solution, especially in lockdown, if you want to stop eating those kind of foods, don't buy them.
Yeah, I've been told that so many times.
And I'm guilty of this. I finish my radio show on a Sunday and I stop off at a little Sainsbury's Express. because it's always quiet at that time. By the time I finish my show and I pick up the essentials, milk, bread, eggs. And last night I picked up a packet of family size fruit gums, and the family didn't eat them. I ate them all on the way home. And as I pulled in, I thought, oh, that's really naughty. And then I said to myself, you haven't eaten anything like this all week. You've really enjoyed it. Did you want it? Yes.
Yes.
Don't feel guilty about it, because when that guilt creeps in, that's when you think, sod it, and you grab the next packet. I only bought the one and ate it all. But if it had been a normal night, I would have eaten everything. And so yeah, it's not labeling those foods as good and bad. It's realizing that you can have whatever you want. But there's a really good lady called Rachel Foy, who has a book called The Hungry Soul. And she also does a 5-day free challenge. If you ever come across it on social media, it's very good. And Rachel is an emotional eating expert. And one of the things she tells people to do is, when you stood at the fridge or the cupboard, if you're like me, we've got a cupboard full of treats. And when you stood there, as you open that fridge or that cupboard, say to yourself, what does she need right now? Because we kind of sometimes will call our body it, and the way that we are with our bodies is it's like it's a separate entity, but actually, what does she need right now? And it's really interesting, because there have been many times I've been stood at that treat drawer and I'll open it and it's like, and I've actually written it on a piece of paper, what does she need right now? And I look at that drawer and I think, no, you definitely don't need a fun bag size burger bite. You could probably do with a glass of water and eating an apple.
I think that's a good question to ask yourself when you head to the fridge or the cupboard to get a treat or something. What does she need? And do you really need it? Things like that in quantity as well. Like you said, you just had one bag and then you thought, I wanted it, I enjoyed it, I'm not going to feel bad about it, and then move on and get on with eating what you do need to eat to stay fit and healthy. So I think that's a good question, actually, to ask yourself, what does she need? I might have to put a little post-it of that on my fridge.
Time, and the lockdown is really, really pertinent for this. A lot of the time we are going for food because we're trying to fill an emotional hole of loneliness, boredom, not feeling loved. Right now as well, we're in a stage, and I interviewed a lady last week and she said this, we're in a stage of grief. We are grieving for the life that we had, grieving for the uncertainty that lies ahead. So what do we do when we feel that grief? That grief causes feelings of hopelessness, sadness, worry. We fill it up with food. We fill it up with sugar and fat-laden foods that make us feel good.
I agree with you 100%. What you just said there is so right. Emotional eating is definitely at the forefront of when it comes to eating things that aren't really good for us. So I definitely understand what you mean by that, and I think I'm guilty of that myself as well. Doing a lot of emotional eating. Funny enough, my brother always says that to me, you're an emotional eater, food is your comfort.
But it starts when we're little. If you think about it, you fall over, you scrape your knee. It's that typical, you can see that image in your mind. You sat by the sink, your mum or your grandparents are kind of wiping down the scraped knee with a bit of water. You've got some tissue paper on it. What do? They give you, here you go, have a biscuit.
Yes, it's true.
And we learn that from such a young age, that food is a comfort. You've been good, you've done well I don't know about you, you've done well in your school report. We always got a cream egg when we've done well in our school report. Oh, you've got a new job, let's go out and celebrate with a big meal.
That is so true. You go to the dentist and even after that you get a lollipop.
Exactly. How mad is that? So, and that's why I think understanding that that's part of our human programming and conditioning, we're not going to change that. I'm a mum, I do it to my son. If you eat all your tea, then you can have a pudding. It teaches him that, but even there's loads that we do as parents that isn't exactly wrong. And I think understanding that and honouring that and there have been times, like I say, I go to the treat drawer. What do I want right now? I feel sad. So I am going to have those crisps because they will make me feel better.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And so I think having that comes under discipline too. Having the discipline to say to yourself, what do I want and need right now? And if you want a packet of crisps, have a packet of crisps.
It's true. You're right.
And actually, if you tell yourself, yeah, I want this right now, you're probably less likely to then eat the rest of the rest of the family size pack. If you've given yourself permission, you've bent the rules in your head a little bit. Right, I'm going to have this, and just enjoy it. Try and eat it. If you are going to do that, eat it with full presence and full intention. Don't be watching the TV at the same time. Break off that corner of the dairy milk and feel that smooth chocolate in your mouth and break and enjoy it. Because ultimately you'll develop a better relationship with food. And that's what it comes down to. Yeah.
I totally agree with you. I really do. I think I do need to instill a bit more self-discipline when it comes to my eating habits, because, you know, I don't think I'm quite there yet where I can have one packet and actually stop. But I'm on the road there. I'm en route to becoming a bit more disciplined with my eating habits.
I'm not, honestly, I'll hold my hands up. I'm not there yet. I'm really not. And I think it's probably going to be a lifelong journey. That is my Achilles heel. That is the first thing I turn to. I eat all of my emotions. I eat when I'm sad. I eat when I'm happy. I eat to celebrate. I eat to commiserate. But accepting that that's who I am is better, I think, than fighting it. I've tried the abstinence and not doing it at all, and then when that abstinence period ends, I'm just eating loads again. So it's just about being a bit kinder and going, yeah, I'm going to have this today and I'm going to enjoy it.
Would you say that women tend to eat more, you know, emotionally than men do?
In my experience, yes, but then I do know men who emotionally eat too. Do you know what we're turning to in lockdown? I saw this on a TV show last night. Guess what? Number one food we're turning to in lockdown.
What? Pizza?
Cheese on toast.
Cheese on toast.
Cheese on toast was number one. Cheese and onion crisps was number two. I can't remember what number three was. Number four was biscuits. And number five was salt and vinegar crisps.
Whoa. That is really something. I didn't know that they were actually taking notes like that.
Apparently, yes, there was a survey done. There's always a survey.
Yeah. That's amazing. So right now, so many people are spending hours on their phones and are in front of their laptops and stuff. So how can people become more digitally disciplined, do you think?
So on the actual computer, I don't know if you've got this, I use Chrome and I use the Facebook newsfeed eradicator on Chrome. So I can't see anybody's updates about what they've had for tea or whether they've been for a run or 25 runs. I can't see any of that. It's just my profile, but none of the newsfeed. Unfortunately, you can't do that on your phone. I'll let you into a little bit of a secret. Throughout lockdown, I have spent many hours unfollowing a lot of people.
Wow.
On Facebook. People I know, people I love and adore, but I've just unfollowed them because I realised myself I was spending a lot of time there. I've unfollowed about 1,000 people on Instagram.
Wow.
I've got Twitter to do yet. And Facebook, yeah, I've unfollowed a lot of people. And so things aren't coming up as much. I also decided to curate my newsfeed of people that I love and respect and admire, and I love what they've got to say. So I've changed my settings that they appear first.
Okay.
Every time I do look on Facebook on my phone.
So we've got
another thing,
inspirational things coming up, things to inspire you. That's amazing. That's brilliant. Yeah.
So I live in Liverpool and I have worked in PR for many years. So the Liverpool Echo, for example, was an account that I followed that came up first all the time. Okay. And throughout the pandemic, I'm probably going to slag them off a little bit now, but I'll hold my hand up and I will. The news from the Liverpool Echo has definitely been quite negative and sensational. There's not been a lot of positive stories as I've seen from other local newspapers. And I realised this a couple of weeks into lockdown, and I just thought I can't read this every time I pick up my phone. So I just unfollowed it completely. I actually unliked the page and everything. And then that was the kind of the turning point for me to go, I need some positive things throughout this period. It's hard enough as it is without feeling like the doom and gloom is magnified.
Yes.
So I cut all of those accounts like that. The Echo used to come up first all the time because I had it starred. So I got rid of all of those accounts and instead follow really awesome people who are fun, upbeat, or just people I admire who've got some great things to say.
Yes. Now I can definitely relate to that. I've actually done some unfollowing myself because I'm more into seeing upbeat things and positive stuff on my timeline, because we're going through quite a depressing time and we don't need any more of it. So I can definitely understand what you mean by that. So when it comes to the virus and stuff, do you think that we can beat it by using self-discipline?
I was talking about this on a radio show yesterday, actually. If there's one good thing to come out of this, it's the fact that we will be more hygienic.
Yes.
So, for example, I work for the BBC, and our policy now is that there are two presenters aren't allowed in the studio, and we have two studios. The person before me is in one, I'm in the next one, and then the person after me goes in the other. And we have to spend a period of time sanitising the studio before and after we come off air, which is something that has never been done in the past. In all my years of radio, there was one time, like there was tonsillitis that went through the radio station, so we were advised to Dettol our muffs, the muffs that go on the microphone. So that's what we would do, but that happened like once, for like a week, whereas now this is happening every show. And even the talk of the schools going back, because at first I was like, no, my son's not going back. Should point out there's no right or wrong answer with this. When they said that the possible format was going to be 2 days in, a day off on a Wednesday to deep clean the school, 2 days in for the rest of the school, the weekend off to deep clean, that gives me a sense of comfort as a parent that they're taking the cleanliness seriously. And I actually think it might have a positive effect on other bugs, winter bugs, for example. If we're going to continue this cleanliness and this focus on hygiene, I wonder whether that will be good for the general population as a whole. If you think about, because you're obviously in the capital, going down to tube stations and anywhere around London, the amount of people just in one concentrated place. If places are being sanitised, that surely can only be a good thing. If people are wearing masks and gloves, surely can only be a good thing. So can we beat the virus with self-discipline? If we're self-disciplined enough to be a bit more clean, possibly. Yes, would be the answer to that.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. So tell us about your new book that you've got coming out.
Yeah, I'll show you. So that's the last one, and I've just rebranded it, so it's got a bit of colour on it now. And this one is Stop Procrastinating, Start Living. So similar vein, but a lot more science in this. Beat procrastination and boost productivity for self-care and success, because my new argument is self-discipline the highest form of self-care?
Oh, that's brilliant. Yes, that's a good question.
So I know that I did this thing called 75 Hard between November and January. Having written a book on self-discipline, I just felt with my fitness that I was a fraud, because when you think of self-discipline, you think of food and fitness. And I just felt like, who the heck am I? Who the heck am I to teach people about self-discipline? So me being me, I decided to do this for 75 days, and it's 2 45-minute workouts a day. One of them has to be outside. Drink a gallon of water a day. I didn't realise there's a difference between American and English gallons. So I was drinking 4.2 litres, and it should have been like 3.5. So just a lot. Pick a diet and stick to it. No alcohol, and take a progress picture every day. Oh, and you had to read 10 pages of a book. And if you fail on any of them, you have to start again. So I did this for 75 days. And actually, what it taught me wasn't self-discipline. It was something much more important. It taught me about self-trust and self-belief. Because self-discipline is about making a promise and keeping it to yourself. And when you don't do that, you lose trust in yourself. And when you lose trust in yourself, you lose belief in yourself. And losing belief in yourself is one of the most crippling, upsetting things that you can do.
Yes.
So working that process backwards, if we can keep our promises to ourselves, even if they're tiny, really small, you build that self-trust again. You build that self-belief again. Because if you've, and I've been somebody who's done this, I've repeatedly said I was going to do things towards goals. And when I didn't do it, that became part of my identity. Somewhere deep down in my subconscious, in my psyche, I told myself I couldn't do this. And that's why, let's use diets and weight loss as an example. If you're somebody that's tried every fad diet out there and you've done it for 2 weeks and then you've got bored and you've put all the weight back on and more, you're just in this cycle of, I just fail anyway. I just fail anyway. I just fail anyway. So when the time comes for you to try yet another fad diet, somewhere in the subconscious, you're going, what's the point? I fail anyway. You know you're only going to do it for 2 weeks, which is why that forgiveness is so important. Whatever has gone before, whatever I have tried before, I forgive myself for. I've learned from it. I'm going to grow from it. So, and I think that we often, when we set a goal too high, too big. It's massive. It's so overwhelming. Whereas if you can break it down into tiny, tiny, small actions and just stick to those, you'll see a huge difference. And that's why when I did 75 hard, it was hardcore. And I was out there, rain or shine, walking the dogs, 11 o'clock at night, 5 o'clock in the morning. And it was intense. But do you know what? I needed to do it to show myself what I was capable of.
Yes.
That's why I needed to do it. And now when I help others with discipline, there aren't many who are as all or nothing as me. I think you've got to have a special kind of insanity deep within to be able to just one day go, right, that's it. And it's not necessarily the right way. What I found with helping others is starting really, really small and sticking to something small and building from it is far better over a period of time. If you think about it, right, let's say you're going to start a diet. It's Monday. We're going to start a diet today because it's Monday. We only start diets on a Monday. And you tell yourself you're going to drink 3 litres of water, you're going to run every day, you're going to eat lettuce. You're not. By day 14, you're miserable, you're knackered, you can't, and you throw the towel in. And let's say you do that 5 times over a period of 6 months. Where are you going to be in 6 months' time? You're going to be probably worse off than the position you started. Whereas if you spent 26 weeks building every week a different habit, by the end of 6 months, you will notice a huge, huge difference. Hello, little man, I'm just on a call. So, say week 1, I'm going to drink 3 litres of water a day, regardless of anything else. Week 2, I'm going to try and get out and walk. At 26 weeks, if you've built up 26 amazing positive habits, and also habits like I'm going to sleep an extra 15 minutes a night, I'm going to read a bit more, I'm going to practice self-love, I'm going to try and spend a week not being negative, I'm going to try and spend a week being not being judgmental of others. All of those things would build up into a crescendo that after 6 months you would be an unrecognizable person from you were on day 1.
I definitely agree. I must say you are absolutely amazing, and I've got to recommend to all my viewers and listeners to go out there and get Gemma's book.
This one actually it'll be out. It should be out right now. We have pressed
both, everybody. I've got the old version, the old cover version, because mine. I think I got mine when your book first came out, actually. Yeah, my favourite uncle bought it for me because I was having some issues of being self-disciplined and going after what I wanted. And to be honest, your book really helped me. You also included the 10-day bonus online coaching sessions, which is brilliant. And I just think you're absolutely amazing. Even this conversation that we've had, I've taken so much from it. You're really inspiring. You have definitely left me with so much to think about.
Thank you very much. I've also got I've got a group on Facebook as well. It's the self-discipline support group.
Oh, brilliant!
And we have like a week. There's this Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. There's content that is scheduled so people know what to expect. I have a hashtag called Pull My Finger. So if you need some help, you're at hashtag Pull My Finger, and we help you pull your finger out and take action in a fun way. So that's been nice, actually. It's been really nice to have readers read the book, because as an author, quite often you'd put a book out there and not know how you impact people. But what's been really nice is that people have joined the group and got involved, and they've shared how it's helped, and they've helped other people as well. So it's like a nice way of bringing people together in one space to hold them accountable, but help other people and inspire them at the same time.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's so positive, especially right now. You know, a lot of people will need to hashtag pull their finger out.
There's still time. That's the thing. There's still time. And what I would say to people is, if you've got to this point and you have felt a little bit like you've created a mold of your backside in the sofa, and you've watched everything on Netflix, and you've eaten all the kettle chips, that's okay. That's okay. This has been the worst global crisis since the war. That's fine. But if you've got to a point, and this is really important, if you've got to a point where you are sick of your own BS and you are annoyed at yourself and you want to take action, draw a line, forgive yourself, remember everything you've achieved, and start really, really small, so you can't fail. For example, if you decided you want to go out and run, instead of saying, I'm going to run 3 times a week, why don't you say, I'm going to lace up my trainers 3 times a week?
Yes.
Because even if you only run to the end of your garden, you've won, you've succeeded. And it's about that self-belief. I made a promise, I put my trainers on 3 times a week, done it. Yeah. You're telling your subconscious that you're a winner. That's really important. So don't expect to be able to change everything in a day. Start small, and you will be amazed at the huge changes you can make over time with a little bit of consistent effort.
Oh, that's brilliant advice. Thank you so much. And I know everybody watching probably going to start looking for you on social media. So how can they find you?
So on Instagram and Twitter, I am Gemma D Ray. So that's Gemma with a G, DEERAY. On Facebook, my page is Gemma Ray Life Unfiltered, or the group is Self-Discipline Support Group. And my new website should be up and running, and it's gemmaray.com.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for speaking
having me
today, Gemma. I really, really appreciate it. You are wonderful. You are amazing. You are so positive. You are a joy to speak to. And I definitely must tune into your radio shows. I'm going to join your Facebook group. You are really empowering and motivational. And I just thank you so much. It's been an honor being able to speak with you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Your check's in the post, by the way, for all those lovely compliments.
Oh, thank you, Gemma.
Thank you very much.